Hi there, and welcome to Learn, Love, Heal. I haven't put a video out in quite some time. I started putting out some videos back in 2019, back when I was sharing my exit from the Jehovah's Witness organization and how that had impacted me. It was very raw, and if you've watched it, oof, thanks for bearing through that. It was very difficult. I realized that at this point, I was only in therapy for about 3 months, and there was still quite a bit of unhealed pains and traumas that had been experienced, and it was difficult. I can say that I have continued to do a great deal of healing since then, and it is much easier for me to talk about now, and I'm finally ready to start sharing more of my story and the journey I've been on. And first of all, I want to just say thank you for being here with me on my journey. Those who have watched, thank you for taking the time and bearing through it. It was painful. And those who are new, welcome to Learn, Love, Heal. This is my channel where I'm going to be sharing a lot about my story and the impact that being in a cult or a highly organized religion or high control group has on you, and also the effect of severe abuse, whether it's emotional, physical, all of those types, and what effect that has on us even into adulthood, and often we don't even know it. I'm a pure manifestation of that. I didn't even realize all my life that there were things that happened to me that were not normal, weren't good. Again, when it's your normal, you just accept it for what it is, and you you try to survive. You go from day to day trying to survive, and that's just it. That's the problem. Therein lies the problem. You're not aware of the impact that not only a controlled religion will have on you, but the abuse, what kind of effect that would have on you. And it's been quite an epic journey for me. And there's actually a little story I want to share about how I even got started on realizing that I needed therapy, because I think it's very important to share it. I've said it many times over that I really do believe that we're here to help each other on the journey, and our experiences can help others along the way. And I know I've learned so much from others who've shared before me. But it all started with very severe, I was having bad teeth problems. If you have watched the previous videos, you know that I went through a few bouts of very, very bad migraines that kind of forced me to, quit the work I was doing at the time, which was running multiple offices in sales, manager, vendor manager, very, very busy. And the migraines kind of forced me to stop and take a hiatus and get to the bottom of it, because they were bad. They would lay me out sometimes up to a couple of weeks, and it was always on the right side, which is the feminine side of the brain. Has to do with spirituality, emotion, memories, creativity, all those lovely feminine energies. And I didn't know it, but I had been repressing a lot of that all my life, just from everything I had been through, burying it until it finally started to manifest through my body, which ended up being through those migraines. Now, fast forward a little bit, after I had done a significant amount of healing. I was starting to meditate. I was starting to really take care of myself, go on and off different foods, and really was starting to follow my heart and only doing what my heart was kind of guiding me to do, of course, coupled with reason. And what ended up happening was, the more I started to listen to my heart over my mind, I realized that I had this deep, deep desire to share my story, because I knew it was a very unique story. I know we all have unique stories. But I really did believe that, and do believe that my story and my tale will hopefully help others to break through from the patterns and behaviors that sometimes it just happens, when you live through certain events and experiences in life, you absolutely will come out with behaviors and patterns that are not good for you. Is it your fault? No, it's not. But it definitely impacts you and your life moving forward, your relationships, who you attract into your world, what you do in those relationships, all of that. And it's quite significant. So at that time, I had, and I'm talking probably about 5 years ago. Yeah, 5 years ago, I really had a deep desire to help ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, ones who were coming out of the cult to heal, try to, live a better life, and realizing that religion's beliefs weren't their truth anymore. So I created a meetup group on meetup.com. I don't know if you're aware of that, but it's a place where you can go and create groups. And they have, meetups and groups for pretty much anything you could ever be interested in, especially if you live in a more populated area like I do in Montreal. So I noticed that there was no ex-Jehovah's Witness meetup group. And I got excited thinking this was going to be a great opportunity for me to meet with others who were keen to talk to those who had been where they were and would understand. And I created the group, and the moment it came to my sharing it on any type of social media platform like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, any of those, my heart would start beating out of my chest. I would get sweaty hands. I was just so fearful of posting this ex-Jehovah's Witness meetup group on these platforms, and I couldn't do it. And I kept saying to myself, okay, it's okay. I had become quite accustomed to following my intuition on when the right time was to act or not. So every time this would happen, I thought, okay, today's not the right day to do it. I'll just wait. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it next week. Whatever. It'll happen in the right time. And days went by, weeks went by, and then I'm sitting there thinking, well, I didn't create this group not to do anything about it. I want to, get together with people, and I want to make it known. I want to make it public so that others will know. And again, this debilitating fear would wash over me that I just couldn't, I felt like I was being strangled, honestly. And I didn't know how to deal with it. So I did what I always do in situations when it seems like there's just no end in sight and I don't know what's going on. And I did realize that there was a massive fear for me to step out into the public eye when it comes to the ex-Jehovah's Witness community, and I didn't know why. And shortly after that, I had to go to the dentist because I was having some serious issues with my teeth on the left bottom side. And I went into the dentist, and he checked out my mouth, told me everything that was going on at the time, basically. He said, not only do I have periodontitis, but it's probably one of the most severe cases he's ever had. And also he said, and because of that periodontitis, which is in effect gum disease, your gums are receding and they're weakening, and therefore they're not supporting the teeth quite as much. And then your teeth are getting weak, and they will eventually get loose and fall out. And this was already starting to happen. And I was like early 40s. So already my two bottom left teeth in the back, the molars, were starting to loosen, and I couldn't chew on them. And, we had to splint them together initially just to kind of give them some support. But he said this was all due to the periodontitis. And then he also looked at the bottom of my mouth and the top, and he saw these great big bone growths, big bumps on the bottom and the top of my mouth. And he thought, oh my God, it's called tori. He's like, you have such a severe case of tori. And I said, well, what is it? How does it get there? Like, I had noticed these bumps before, but I didn't know what it was. And I thought, again, other people had that too. So he told me it's usually the cause of serious teeth grinding, really severe teeth grinding. He's like, it's usually more common in men, because men, from very young, they're not usually able to express themselves or show emotions. So they do a lot of teeth grinding at night because they have all this repressed emotion. And so I was hearing what he was saying, oh my God, like, a very, very severe case of periodontitis, this bruxism, teeth grinding that I've been doing from, I don't even know how. I mean, from a kid. I know, once my dad had married my stepmother, who was quite abusive with me, that's when it started. So I thought about that, and I went home, and I thought, I was always looking into the metaphysical reasons for things at that point, the deep spiritual causes or the metaphysical reasons. So I start researching, and I come across an oral surgeon named Dr. Michele Caffin. Actually a very well-known French oral surgeon. And she has actually written several books about teeth and the metaphysics behind teeth and what the teeth represent, and when there's issues, what it could mean. So I started reading up on what she was talking about, and I went directly to when she was discussing the different quadrants of the mouth, like top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right. I went right away to the bottom right to find out what that meant, because those were some of my issues. That's where it was. And immediately I see, she said something, and I'll post a link about this on below in the comments. So for those who want to look into that themselves, they can. So yeah, it said, any issues with the bottom left usually indicate lack of emotional recognition within the family. And I thought, oh my God, you can't make this up. I had left the organization when I was 27. There was a lot of severe abuse that had happened. I didn't know it at the time, but also when I was a young child. So when I thought about it, being completely rejected by my family, who were in the religion, I realized, oh my God, there is an absolute lack of emotional recognition in my family. I mean, it was just unbelievable. That synchronicity, or yeah, not coincidence, but a synchronicity for sure. So that wasn't a coincidence. I knew that. And then I kept going. I started looking at bruxism and what that could indicate. And I saw that with severe bruxism, it usually has to do with anger over not being able to express yourself. And I thought, oh my God, anger at not being able to express yourself. I was never able to express myself. I wasn't, even when things were terrible and I was being beaten, I wasn't allowed to cry. Like, there was no emotional anything. No support, it was severe abuse on all levels. So I thought, okay, that makes sense. I was starting to become aware that maybe that more happened in my childhood than I realized. And then I looked into the whole periodontitis, the gum disease thing, and what that could mean. And sure enough, it says, unable to win the approval of someone highly unlikely to give it. unable to win the approval of someone highly unlikely to give it. Sorry about the noise in the back, that's my little cat. So I thought, oh my God, that has everything to do with my failure to be able to please my stepmother, who was severely harsh and critical. And I started thinking about these things and what that meant for me. And I had already asked the question, where is this root fear coming from? My being unable to share my ex-Jehovah's Witness meetup group. Why couldn't I do it? And here I was, sitting in front of all this information regarding all the teeth issues I had. And the doctor is saying, yeah, this is not just you have a case of this, it's some of the most severe I've seen. And then finding out the metaphysical reasons for it, I started to realize, oh my God, I think I think maybe, just maybe, I've been through some abuse. And I remember telling some of my friends, the closest ones to me at the time, you know, like, because it was an epiphany for me. You have to understand, I didn't think I was abused. I had no knowledge of it. I had repressed so much of the pain and the memories of so much that had happened to me, and had really only saved the best parts. So I really had to sit with this information I'd come across and let it sink in. And I realized, oh my God, I've been a victim of severe child abuse. It was the first I'd heard, ever thought about it. And I was kind of floored, and the people I was telling, they they would look at me like kind of stunned, because they already knew. I guess with the little that I had shared with them, they knew already, and I didn't. It's like I was the last to know. I didn't get the memo. Again, when it's your normal, you don't really realize what you've been through, because it's all you've known. You don't know anything different. So that was what woke me up to realizing that I had a much rougher past than I had ever acknowledged. And so I knew I should probably talk to someone. I knew that maybe I need a therapist. So that all happened in the spring of 2019. All these epiphanies with my teeth, and my opening, starting that ex-Jehovah's Witness meetup group. So it was definitely the answers I needed to get to help me to realize where this deep-rooted fear was coming from. And by the time I finally found a therapist, it was the fall of 2019. And 2018, my apologies, 2018. So I was only in therapy for 3 months before I, started putting out those first videos, because I was so proud to finally have found my voice, and to have found some of the reasons as to what had happened with me, and why I was being held back on certain levels, why I was in fear a lot, and especially in reference to sharing anything about being an ex-Jehovah's Witness or being there for others, because if you're not aware, they call them apostates. They're really looked on very badly. I guess the subconscious fear in me was petrified as to how my primary abusers would react to this, because I was going against everything they had ever told me, which was never breathing a word about anything that ever happened at home and to me. And when you're in a situation where you're trusting the parents you have, because that's all you have, you rely on them for care, support, love, nurturing, being fed, being clothed, all of that. And when you're met with such vicious abuse, which I have no problem saying it now, but for the longest time I didn't admit it. I pretended it was not as bad as it was, and I blocked most of it out, actually. I haven't even remembered it all. You know, I've been in therapy almost 4 years now, and I haven't even remembered it all, you know. And I don't know if I ever will. But I do know that I have recovered enough to know that it wasn't okay, and that it did a hell of a number on me, on my psyche, on who I was, on who I am, and who I attract into my life, and kind of what happens in my life, and how I respond to what happens. So it was huge. So again, thank you for bearing with me on those videos at the beginning, because it was pretty raw and pretty hard to sit through. So fast forward to the next 3 years here, and I know you've all probably been through a lot too in these last few years with COVID. You know, it's really touched close to home for a lot of people, and it hasn't been easy. I went through some pretty hard stuff at that time too, even before COVID hit. My best friend, who I had been partnered with for 13 years, and he stayed my best friend even when I came out of the closet. He had a stroke in late 2019, and he didn't die at the time. He was actually in a locked-in state, which means that the only thing he could move was his eyes. He would have to, you know, left or right for no, up and down for yes, and he was fully cognizant, but there was such severe brain damage that it impacted all his motor skills and speech skills, and it was really hard. And I was there with him at the hospital every day for as long as I could be, until COVID hit and I couldn't be anymore. And he finally died 10 months later in 2020. So, losing my family and everyone I ever knew, when I did leave the cult, Dennis became my family. He was the one I had. So, losing him was, as you can see, still very sensitive for me. And I continued through my therapy, through all this, doing the healing of what had happened to me in my childhood and then throughout my life, because again, you tend to attract the wrong people, the people who use you and abuse you into your life. And it's not easy, and I know that I'm not the only one, and this is why I want to share it, because I know that so many out there are like me. And when you have been in a highly controlled organization, high control organization, or a cult, that does a further number on you, because you're literally brainwashed and programmed to take it and deal and be the slave of God, whatever you want to call, you know, what you're doing at that point in the religion, and just exist, you know. Yeah. So I was able to do a lot of healing over the last few years. I have continued to, unfortunately, draw relationships that weren't the healthiest for me, but slowly but surely I have been able to end those relationships and put a stop to allowing people to treat me in ways that I don't deserve. The last thing people tell you when you've been severely abused is that you are worthy. You are worthy of love, of abundance, of joy. that is the last thing you're told. So, being in therapy and being able to address the faulty neural patterns and brain ways that I had established because of the way I was treated and groomed, it only lent to continuing to attract people who were very narcissistic, people who were only looking out for their best interest, and it's, you know, very toxic. And I've been able to eliminate a lot of these relationships now. It's been a very difficult journey, and every time I think I'm 2 steps ahead or 1 step ahead, I take 2 or 3 back, you know. And I'm so thankful that I have a very attentive therapist who has been there for me and been able to help me with kid gloves to really, you know, step through one level of growth after the other, you know. And it takes working from the back to the front, you know. I had to start at the very beginning and work my way forward into seeing how those behaviors and patterns that I had developed over time had affected and attracted these groups that, and were not just groups, but maybe, well, people that saw in me another victim, someone who would serve their end, you know. Yeah, so it's a very sensitive subject for me still, and even though I know I've done a significant amount of healing, it's something that I will continue to talk about because I know it's really needed right now. It's needed more than I can ever verbalize. And what happens to us, we don't always realize how it makes us react and how we unconsciously try to protect ourselves. And there's one saying that I absolutely love, and it's so true, so true. And you honestly don't get it until you start realizing. But it goes like this. It's by Carl Jung. And he said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And this has been so unbelievably true for me because I was unaware. I was unconsciously living in ways and patterns that were attracting people who only used and abused me. And I would turn around at the end of the day and say, why does this keep happening to me? Why do I keep drawing friends and relationships who continually hurt me, stab me in the back, take advantage, use? Why? And at one point, I remember closing my heart off, literally closing it off and saying, I'm not going to get close to anyone anymore because it's only going to result in the same thing. I know my heart. I love big. I love hard. And I can't help it. That's who I am. And if it's going to just result in my getting hurt again and again and again, well, let me just stop. I'm done. And that was until I finally woke up to who we really are, which is the essence of spirit, source, prime creator, God, call it what you will. We are all God sparks. And until you realize and wake up to realize that there are many things that we've been through that impact how we behave, and it's an unconscious behavior. I unconsciously was attracting to me the same type of people that I grew up with and was abused by. They all came in different shapes, sizes, many different shapes and sizes. Absolutely. It wasn't a one size fits all. But the similar pattern was there. And until I was able to make that conscious, it would have continued to direct my life, and I would have called it fate, because I did call it fate at one point. I even said, I'm going to close my heart off because this is who I am, and I just give too much, and I give too big. Why am I going to keep doing that and then just have the same thing happen to me? You know, that's the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing and again and expecting a different result. Well, I didn't think I was insane, and I stopped the pattern. I said, nope, I'm closing my heart off, you know, until I kind of woke up and realized that I am love. It's who I am, and I'm actually only doing a disservice to myself by not allowing myself to love. Let others in, love them back, you know? And unfortunately, I still drew, you know, people who took advantage, much milder version. And those very same people who might have taken advantage and used me, I also was greatly helped by. So they were definitely soul ties and karmic relationships that were necessary, and I don't regret them. But as I have continued to heal and make the unconscious conscious, I've started to realize and become aware of the patterns that I was manifesting, the actions I was doing that was actually attracting these people. And slowly but surely, I feel like I've eliminated almost all of them. And that feels pretty good, because I'm finally starting to attract people who are treating me the way I deserve to be treated. People who are treating me the same way I treat them. And that's amazing. I can't even express how grateful I am to have been able to do the amount of healing I've been able to do. And I'm not there yet, that's for sure. But I do know that I have grown so much, and I'm so elated and excited to be able to continue to share my story. I know it's taken a few years to continue, because once the teeth stuff happened, which actually was just, oh my God, it was 2019. It was in the spring of 2019 that I started having those teeth issues. So it was just after I started to put out those videos. I actually had to have almost all of the teeth in my mouth, -3, worked on, extracted, replaced, capped, all of that. And it took months and months of needles and drilling, and oh my God, the amount of pain that I went through to deal with that. I mean, I couldn't possibly put out videos at that point because I couldn't even speak. But that was just very indicative of the amount of trauma that I did to my teeth because of what I went through as a young child, and the traumas that I endured and was never able to express or emote. I took it out on my teeth at night. I grinded the hell out of them. My dentist told me that I had grinded down several millimeters of them, and that's why so many of them had to be capped. And I didn't even know it, but very slowly I wasn't able to eat hot or cold. I couldn't bite into a cold blueberry. I couldn't have an apple from the fridge. I couldn't have a hot cup of tea. Couldn't drink a cold beer. The amount of pain that I experienced with my teeth, I couldn't do it. I always had to wait for stuff to get to be room temperature to eat, and I didn't even know why that was happening. I just thought it was a preference. It was such a slow and subtle happening. But when the dentist told me that I had severely grinded my teeth to the point, not only did I have these massive bones on the bottom of my mouth that were called tori, but I had several of my teeth were grinded so low that the nerve endings were exposed. So this is why I wasn't able to eat hot or drink cold, you know? And so I've had a lot of work done on my mouth, which is I'm very thankful for, because now I can bite into a nice cold apple or drink a cold beer. It's very relieving. But it's amazing the amount of healing that comes once you start to take proactive steps to fix what happened to you in the past and acknowledge what happened. I'm not going to lie and say it was an easy journey. It has not been an easy journey. It's even been very hard for me to do this video and come out and expose myself and share my truth, because of the fear of expression, the fear of what I went through, the fear, so many fears. You know, I even woke up last night in cold sweats, knowing I wanted to do this video today, and I burst into tears, sobbing, because I thought I'd taken care of this this fear of speaking up, you know. But it is very ingrained, so ingrained. We create certain neural pathways when we go through certain things as a young child growing, especially if it's ongoing. And so to correct those behaviors and patterns is very difficult. Being able to put up and hold healthy boundaries, it's been the most difficult thing I've probably ever done in my life. And to hold them, oh geez, sticking up for yourself when normally you always capitulate, give in, please others, do for them just because you don't matter. It's all about them, right? But no, that's not the right way to go. And now that I've made the unconscious conscious, I'm not letting it happen anymore. It's not going to be called my fate, because I've chosen a different fate. I'm starting to tell a different story now, and to rewrite my timeline. And there's another saying that I love so, so much, and it's, people only treat you the way you let them treat you. And again, I knew that from a long time ago, but I used to think, yeah, well, I don't treat people, you know, I don't let people treat me badly, but I was. I didn't even know it, but I was. I was giving away all my power every time, in any relationship I would ever be in, whether it was platonic or romantic or work-related. I gave my all to the point where I didn't matter, because I wasn't worthy. They were more important than me. To take care of their needs first, always came first. Always. The whole people-pleasing tendency, it's not actually a good thing. And if you're a people-pleaser, then I would start looking into maybe why you're a people-pleaser, because you might need to make some unconscious things conscious, you know? Anyway, I'm happy to be back and to be here and to be able to share this with you, because I think it's very important that we share, we speak up, and we share our truth. And again, if this is your first time on my channel, thank you for joining me. Thank you for being patient and letting me explain how this has happened for me and why I'm here. And if you haven't seen those first videos, don't. Wait for the book. I will be writing the book. It'll probably be several books, because there's a lot to say. But again, thank you for being here. And if you feel so inclined, like, share, subscribe, because these are topics I believe we really do need to start talking about. So thanks again, and I'll see you next time.